Hello, everyone. Since this Muslim Quarter tours, they are a logical continuation of my tour of the Temple Mount, and well, before that, we did about 10 tours of the archaeology of the Temple Mount, and after that, we walked on the Temple Mount, studying the Muslim heritage sites. And for me, it's not about Islam as a religion. That, well, yeah, obviously, this is the third, well, the Temple Mount is the third sacred place for Muslims all over the world. And also, the Dome of the Rock happens to be the earliest, the oldest architectural ensemble of Muslim architecture. Well, spiritual architecture that's religious site. It's obviously a very important site, but for me, it's more important to talk about architecture, to talk about interesting figures, historic characters, historical figures that left a certain impact, and um, their their imprint you can sort of see even today in this or that way. So for me, this is the most this is the most important angle to look at things. And obviously, my tour is not about geopolitics. My tours are not about saying who Haram al-Sharif belongs to. Haram al-Sharif, this is the Temple Mount, right? The it's it's about it's the place equally important for the three monotheistic religions anyway, just as well as Jerusalem in general, just as well as the Holy Land, right? And it really breaks my heart to see what's going on in the Middle East and what's happening in the world in general. So let's just try to focus on the topic. What you're looking at is what you know already very well, and I'm really proud of you that now you you can tell how many quarters in the old city there are. And we are going to be exploring the Muslim quarter in the next several episodes. Well, I'm hoping just to like have two, but we'll see. And it's important to mention that even though we are going to be walking in the Muslim quarter, there are a lot of sites that have no relation to Islam, just as well as in the Christian quarter or in the Jewish quarter. You can find something that does not belong to the respective religions or communities, right? Because the old city itself is a lot more complex, and this division into four quarters is largely comes from the Ottoman times. Obviously, all these four groups have always been, or with certain breaks, but intervals, but have always been present in the Holy Land and in Jerusalem in particular. But well, let me just give you an example. Why, for example, in the Muslim quarter, here you can see that very well, Via de la Rosa, right, which is the way of suffering, which is definitely a Catholic narrative, that is a Christian thing. Why does it go through the Muslim quarter? That is because Islam was born only in the early 7th century Common Era, right? So, but the city had been existing, had been there way before that. And that's exactly why in the current Muslim quarter, you can come across a lot of sites associated with with the walk of Jesus from, let's say, Praetorium to Golgotha. And this is how many churches would be erected along the way, and many other things as well. There's also a lot of the pagan heritage, that is the Roman heritage, because Jerusalem was destroyed largely. Well, we have spoken about it before, but also I assume that we may have some new viewers with us. And also, this video will be put up on YouTube at least for 1 week. That's what I do with all my tour recordings. If 1 week you can find this video is in open access through my website or through my YouTube channel. And I wanted to be clear for everyone that Jerusalem is very complex. It's like a phyllo pastry, and what is important to remember that after the second temple was destroyed in 70 AD, a little bit after that, the entire Jerusalem was destroyed completely and built from scratch. I will be talking about it, built from scratch from the, well, a Jewish city into a Roman city, Aelia Capitolina. And for example, uh, we have spoken about it before, but there are still some streets found from those Roman times, from late Roman times, such as the Cardo Street, that the main street that would run from north to south, and also Decumanus, the other street that would go from east to west. That is Roman pagan heritage as well. So it's way more complex than that, and obviously Jews can access Muslim Quarter, and they access it. Armenians can walk everywhere, and all groups, all religious groups can walk around the old city, and there's it's not like they have special security posts everywhere. The one place that has limitations, however, is the Temple Mount. Briefly, so what you see is the Western Wall Praying Plaza, which is part of the Jewish Quarter. This is the biggest open air synagogue, right next to the Western Wall. We will be talking about the Western Wall today because this may be quite astounding, but in the Muslim Quarter, there is also a Jewish, important Jewish site in the Muslim Quarter. Yes, this is true. And there's nothing you can do about it. Just like there is also a mosque in the Jewish quarter, there's nothing you can do about it, and nobody's going to do anything about it. So, but there's some limitations, such as non-Muslims can only access the Temple Mount through this gate, through Maghrabi Gate. Maghrabi means Moroccan. We spoke about it before. The interesting thing is that in Jerusalem and also in Israel in general, there are two official languages, English and Arabic. That's just kind of a little bit mentioning the a stupid idea, a total myth that there is an apartheid in Israel. It's not about that. So the two official languages, and there are two names for each thing, for each specific site. Sometimes three, because there's also a name in English, and some of these names given in English would be coming from the 19th century. That is from the times when the pilgrimage, Christian pilgrimage, was allowed by the Ottomans, who at that time controlled the Holy Land. And three languages, three cultures, three backgrounds, three narratives. For example, even the Western Wall, which is the holiest site, closest to the temple and the Holy of Holies that once used to be there. In the Muslim narrative, it's called the Burak Wall, Al Burak Wall, because the Temple Mount happens to be the place that was visited in on the ninth journey of Prophet. Let me turn down the volume, it's not going to help us. And that's exactly what the Dome of the Rock symbolizes, right? The night journey, the ascension to heaven of Prophet Muhammad that came on his horse Al Burak, which we in most cases imagine as a winged horse. However, as far as I understand, wings were not really ever mentioned, but it seems logical for us for such a horse to have wings. Well, anyway, it's how it is portrayed in scars, but still present, especially Persian literature. And we spoke about a lot of the other important sites on the Temple Mount with regards to Muslim heritage and Muslim narrative. And this is the Dome of the Chain, which is located next to the Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa Mosque. There are also underground mosques. There's also Al Burak Mosque, which is an underground mosque. These are all important heritage sites, which unfortunately non-Muslims are not allowed to access. But there are some things, such as the Dome of the Chain, which you can access because you're not really going inside. It's there. And uh, For me, as I said in the very beginning, I'm focusing more on architecture and heritage. So, on the Temple Mount, you can find also quite a mix of Muslim architecture. In the historiography, in the chronology of the Holy Land, there were two Muslim periods, in fact, starting from 638 when Islam came to the Holy Land, and up until 1099, up until the arrival of the Crusaders, right? It was the first Muslim period within which there were several different dynasties taking power one from another. And well, there was a lot of geopolitics there, even within the Muslim period. I'm not even going into those details. There is no need for it at the moment, right? And then, starting from late 1200, so the late 13th century, and up until, well, actually up until the British Mandate, it would be the second Muslim period that is divided into the Mamluk period and the Ottoman period. With Ottoman, I think it's pretty much clear this is the modern day Turkey. But with regards of the Mamluks, so the Mamluks are the warriors coming from Egypt. It started as basically slaves. So the young boys would be taken from their families, purchased from their families throughout the Caucasus, Mongolia, and some other areas in the Middle East. And well, and they were raised to be war machines. Mameluke actually means someone that belongs to someone else, but they eventually stood against their, well, their masters, and conquered them, and then conquered half of the, well, Middle East, just like that. So, and there is a lot of the Mamluk architecture in the old city, and most of the first Muslim period architecture is now in excavations, or it's mm, under the layers of the second Muslim period heritage that we can see. So we are now leaving the Temple Mount platform. This is what we have spoken about before, but let's talk about the Mamluks. So Mamluks, what is so special about them? Mamluks, well, yes, they were supposed to be just slaves and warriors, but they managed to outplay many other armies in North Africa, in the Middle East, and they eventually were smart enough to establish their own state, to establish educational system, architectural styles, like architecture school. For example, what we're looking at is the Al Ashrafiyya Madrasa, which is a Muslim religious school, and here and we will see it as the tour goes as well, so I'm going to be repeating myself from time to time, but here you can see one of the beautiful examples of Mamluk architecture. They kind of took absorbed, taken in elements of different architecture that they saw across the Caucasus, Mongolia, North Africa, and the Middle East, of course. They would take also a lot of the construction materials left from the Crusader period. And Crusaders, they had churches, they built they built certain constructions in Jerusalem, and there were also constructions, well, certain structures built on the Temple Mount itself. So here we can see two significant features. First and foremost, we'll speak about one of them, and then we'll speak about on another one at a different location. So first and foremost, whenever in Jerusalem and also in the Middle East, you see the buildings that have the stripes, right, of a darker and a brighter stone, like in most cases it's either brown or red, but it also depends on the area where you are. So this is called ablak, and this is a significant feature. This is one of the trademarks of Mamluk architecture. Also, a lot of geometrical elements in the decoration. Just for example, look at that. We're looking at the roof, right, of the vault, and you can see the ornaments. Geometrical patterns is one of very few, well, methods of decoration that they were limited to, because in Islam you're not really allowed to uh, depict animals or human beings, right? And we're talking about religious institutions. Obviously, some images were possible, but in the educational literature and not in religious facilities, not in mosques or madrasa. So this is a whole different story, and this is how creative they would get. Also, take a look at all these geometrical 3D designs of vaults that required a lot of the intellect, a lot of the calculations and skill. And they had that skill. Also, what you we will see it also as we go, but it's not really obvious. But if you look at to the right from the entrance to the madrasa, you will see one window, a narrow window with sort of a grid on it. This grid is called mashrabiya, and mashrabiya it's the invention. We're not entirely sure whether it's the Ottoman times or the Mamluk times, but it looks like it's the Ottoman times. And you can see it also in this photo. Well, Mashrabia is this kind of well, there was no glass windows and there was no need for glass windows. So during the hot days, there was still a need to keep the doors open, keep the windows open. But because of the modesty issues, women who stayed at home alone, they were not allowed to open windows because it was considered a bad idea, but they still wanted to have some fresh air coming in. And this is when this mashrabiyah came in very handy. I would say that I mostly support the idea of having mashrabiyah, well, the mashrabiyah coming in the Ottoman times, or at least the Ottomans would spread it and popularize it all around the former Ottoman territories. Well, Mashrabi is one thing, and it's still very, very, very widespread in the Holy Land and in the Middle East. I'm pretty sure because it gets really, really cold. Cold, sorry, cold is just for a couple of months, maybe maximum in Jerusalem. But it's hot like 10 months a year, and the draft fresh air is extremely important, but you also need to have more shade, and Mashrabiyah comes absolutely, well, it just perfectly meets the needs. Now, another important feature of Mamluk architecture is the presence of bathhouses and sebils, which were well, sabil is a fountain. There are two kinds of fountains. There is the fountain for drinking water, but there's also a fountain for spiritual purification. And both and also bathhouses were very widespread, and they were brought and built in abundance in the Holy Land during the Mamluk period as well. Again, one would think those were just slaves, but no, they were given such a good education, and they had all the skills and the brains to totally revolutionize the world around them. Totally. And well, this interesting construction we also spoke about. We also spoke about it before. So Mamluks would leave a lot of memorial sites, especially on the spots where Christian institutions used to be, let's say Christian monuments or churches from the Crusader period. Mamluks came to the Holy Land to oust the Crusaders, right? And the Crusaders, over a little bit less than 2 centuries, had to build quite a lot of pilgrimage sites, churches, and other facilities. And it was important for the Mamluks to mm, mark as theirs. So they would tear down Christian architecture, take the stones. In many cases, they would take the stones because, well, marble, for example, was absolutely essential because there's no marble in the Holy Land. So what they would do, they would be building their own pilgrimage sites. In many cases, it would be just tombs of sheikhs that would be buried there, and they would become pilgrimage sites built on the same spot where a crusader site used to be, so to speak. Uh, well, in this particular case, we don't know whether there had been any Crusader period structure here. Most probably not, but we spoke about it also briefly in the previous episode that this is this is the well, a fountain named after a prominent, wise sultan of the Mamluk period, Qaid Bey, who actually happened to be Georgian. So in Georgia, a lot of Mamluk boys would be taken from Georgia. So and he happened to be one of the greatest ones still remembered, so to speak. Yeah, but again, this is not a fountain. Well, it used to be a fountain, but I'm not sure if it's functioning anymore. I but maybe it does because some of the fountains were closed when I was filming, but I assume during big feasts such as Eid al-Fitr, which is happening this spring, it's I'm sure it's going to be so crowded and there would be not enough ablution fountains for purification before the prayer. So I assume that more fountains will be open eventually. But uh, at this point, I'm not sure. And also, what we haven't spoken yet about is the number of gates. There are still a lot of gates which take you to the Temple Mount. Some of them are sealed, and most sealed ones come from the Jewish period, come from the first and second temple period. I'm not going into this on this tour. We spoke, we had like 10 tours about the architecture of the Temple Mount. Those two recordings are available for my sponsors, and the sponsorship link is also on the chat over there, and I will resend it in the end of the tour. So sponsorship is uh, $10 monthly fee extra to the tips that provides you with the 24/7 access to more than 900 videos, not just Holy Land, but also St. Petersburg, a little bit of Amsterdam, and Tbilisi. Well, there's a lot, really, and including the 10 tours of the architecture of the Temple Mount and around it. So let's just have a look at some of the gates, just some of the gates. And also, the names are sometimes quite suggestive. For example, Gate of the Tribes. What kind of tribes are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the tribes of Israel. And this is not an interpretation because Islam was based on Judaism and Christianity in many ways, and a lot of important figures and of Judaism, for example, and Christianity are seen as prophets in Islam, and so it's one of those cases with the gates of tribes. For non-Muslims, by the way, it is quite the access, as you know, it's complex, right? So the access to the Temple Mount is complex for non-Muslims only through the Mughrabi Gate. And with regards to exit, one or two gates are possible to exit the Temple Mount, and I will explain which of them. It's also important to remember that during the mm, well they still don't know much of how the old city looked during the times of the Mamluks in terms of what the walls used to be, how high they used to be, and how tall they used to be, and many other things. But what we know is that during the Ottoman period, which started in 1517, uh, um, the Suleiman the Magnificent or Suleiman the First rebuilt the walls of the old city, and also he definitely added some of the gates to the Temple Mount. That is out of question, and also some of the gates would be sealed during the Ottoman times as well. So we can't, let's say, definitely say which gates were built at which period. We have a certain understanding, but not with regards to all the gates. The gates of remission, it's another gate. So we are doing it from starting from the northern section. Many gates would be named after important officials or kings or sheikhs, such as the King Faisal, who indeed contributed a lot to the looks of Jerusalem, to the Temple Mount, and some of the important sites. Also, it's believed that one of the madrasa was established originally by the King Faisal. Well, King Faisal, the king of Iraq, visited the Temple Mount. That goes without saying, and obviously the gate had existed before he came, right? And there were other names of the gate, and there are other gates also named after important characters. So, but this gate was named after him, and well, to show respect towards. Towards the king of Iraq. We're talking about like early 20th century here. So, and another gate, and many gates, they don't even look like gates. They look like entrances to the buildings. For example, in this case, the gate goes through the building, which is part of the residential building, by the way. In many ways, especially in the northern wall, there, the northern wall of the Temple Mount, it's also partially schools, and it's also the northern wall shares a wall with buildings. We saw a lot of it. So Council Gate, it's the gate that, well, non-Muslims cannot really exit through, and this is the gate that takes you directly to the headquarters of Waqf. Well, one of the, let's say, one of the one of the buildings of Waqf, which is the organization that deals with the Muslim heritage sites, pilgrimage sites in the Holy Land. And it is believed that originally just a big council during the Ottoman times also existed in that area. So hence the name. So we believe that the name, we don't know exactly when the name came about, but we believe that this name, well, stuck to the place way before the 20th century. Iron Gate is one of the it's one of the two gates through which non-Muslims can exit. It's a little bit less complex with regards to exit than the entrance, and it is believed that, well, again, we don't know for sure, but most likely Iron Gate is the name, is um well, most of the gates would have wooden or stone elements, but it is believed that originally the gate here used to be decorated with iron somehow. At least this is an, let's say, an a theory, which could be true. This is my favorite gate. It's the most beautiful one, and this is the one through which non-Muslims can definitely exit. And the gate of the cotton merchants. And have a look at it. This is again an amazing example of Mamluk architecture. I'm sure you can already identify the ablak, right? The horizontal lines of different colors, right? So darker, brighter, darker, lighter, darker, lighter, different, and well, this is one of the um, significant features of Mamluk architecture. Ablution Gate, because it is located just next to one of the ablution fountains, right? So to remind you that the purification of hands and legs is a must before entering mosque, before the prayer. So there are a lot of the ablution fountains, a lot of the purification fountains that you can find on Temple Mount. The Chain Gate, because it's really um, like parallel to the Dome of Chain, right? We spoke about it on the previous tour. So I'm not going into details here, but that's the place where the Prophet Suleiman had a kind of a, it was a place of judgment, and only the righteous and the truthful people could pull the chain, but those who had a agenda could not. Moroccan's Gate, because they take you to the, well, they used to take you to the Maghrabi Quarter, to the Moroccan Quarter. That's exactly, well, the gate through which non-Muslims can access the Temple Mount. And that's what we have done so many times together. And this is me this summer standing next to the standing next to the Cotton Merchants Gate, and well, they are just perfect. I'm a big fan of it. And also here in this photo, and also in the video, in the Cotton Merchants Gate, but also in many other sites, you can see the interesting feature. Mm, hold on a second. I will go back for a minute over here to this photograph. Apart from the ablak, you can also see this, and you will see more when we see some other buildings, but nevertheless, I wanted to show you it here. You also see these interesting carved elements in the walls, like vertical, like stalactites a little bit. So they look like honeycomb in a way, right? Like a honeycomb design of the stonework. So it's mukarnas. This is another unique feature which we don't know how it came to the Mamluk period, how it how it came about, but this is one of the significant features, one of the trademarks, I would say, of the Mamluk architecture for sure. And now, well, when I was there, it was like 7 in the morning. I think around 8 I already left, and it was, well, it was probably me and a couple other people. I think they were just Muslims, and that was the day was just about to begin, and it was the first time I saw the cotton merchants market that empty. You see, the floor is wet. That's because they were preparing for the day, cleaning the floors. It's just showering. It's just showering the floor with the water, and that's it. And I found one photograph from, I'm not sure even which period. I believe it's, well, it's definitely before the Mandate period, somewhat Ottoman times, probably late 1800s. So the cotton merchants market. Well, this is one of the oldest markets in the old city of Jerusalem. And according to most sources, we believe that the cotton merchants market emerged in the 14th century, right? That is or late 13th century. So around that time, thanks to the Sheikh Tankis, and Tankis, we spoke about Tankis fountain. So Tankis indeed build a lot of different structures, bathhouses, fountains, markets of all sorts. And this is one of those covered markets. So, and above it, there, sometimes above the markets would be living quarters as well. It was very common, pretty common. Hold on a second. We have one of the viewers who's trying to access the tour. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, and I only see this now. Just give me a moment to reply, and I will just send the direct link. I know it's probably way too late, but I still want to help if I can. But oh wow. Okay, let me send it at least like this. Okay, so and I had also videos taken 2 years ago. I had a video that I filmed last week, and the market looks different. So this is another video that I filmed in on some other occasion. I think it's just from last week. So normally the market, well, it doesn't sell cotton anymore, but originally, yes, it was the cotton's market. So the cotton, sukal katin, it would be brought to the Holy Land, and it would be sold here. So all sorts of fabrics, including cotton, would be sold here in this particular market. And right now they don't sell cotton here anymore. They sell all sorts of things, including the halwa, variety of halva. Oh my goodness, I haven't seen that many pistachios for a long time, and I have difficulty really forgetting all those pistachios. I never bought anything to myself. I just didn't really have time. But I mean, look at all these nougats, right? All these varieties of halvas. Um, and spices, of course. Uh, mm, Za'atar, roasty, nutmeg, cinnamon. Oh goodness, just incredible variety of peppers and different mixtures like of spices, which I'm not even going to begin to describe because it's absolutely impossible. But za'atar, for example, it's a very so if you want to know what the Middle East tastes like, smells like, well, that's definitely za'atar. Also, dash of falafel for sure, but also za'atar. That's a mixture of well, uh it's different. It's okay. Za'atar is like it's a plant, dried and shredded, but it's also cumin. It's also oh, sorry, not the cumin. What is it? The sesame seeds and some other spices all blended together, and that's when you get this taste of the Middle East. Roasty, very common thing. That's also true. We will be talking more about the spices. It's just one of the markets, but I wanted to focus here on the incense, frankincense, myrrh, misk. Um, well, that's the smell of the Holy Land for sure. And in fact, all this incense would be sold and would be going through the Holy Land back and forth for many, many, many centuries before that, for thousands of years, in fact, before that. And they're still there. And the smell of the, particularly in the Muslim quarter, they sell so much of this incense. And it's the smell of the Muslim quarter for sure. So speaking of fountains, there were also built drinking fountains, and we see here the example of another Mamluk architecture, and you could see the mukarnas, right? The honeycomb looking stalactite, something like that, right? It's like cut into in the rock, and that was the fountain, just a drinking fountain in the old city. Well, some more incense over there. Uh, well, this is a touristy thing. Well, locals would normally not buy something from this particular vendor, let's say, but it's important to remember. However, let me just make sure that I'm mindful of the timing. Yeah, just needed to keep up with the news. So far, so good. Anyway, so let's talk about a little bit more of the old city in general and Muslim quarter in particular. So Muslim quarter happens to be the biggest, and Muslim population definitely prevails. Altogether, there are about 40,000 people living in the old city, well, give or take, and it's 1 square kilometer in total area, right? That's a big deal, and people actually live in the old city. And yeah, obviously, in East Jerusalem starts from the Damascus Gate, and up north. It's people live there, but yeah, obviously it's also an important tourist site. There are not so many tourists these days, obviously, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. But it's not just about that. So yeah, there are a lot of tourist sites. Yes, there are a lot of souvenirs sold. There are a lot of you know the tourist things that are sold there, but also you can buy a faucet there, like I mean a tap. You could buy a toilet there. I mean, you can buy a kitchen set, you can buy the power bank, you can buy furniture, you can buy a coat, you can buy toys, anything there because people live there. And you can find all sorts of like variety of things in the Muslim Quarter. The most tourist sites will be along the Via Dolorosa for obvious reasons, right? But the more authentic places, the more authentic eateries would be closer towards the Damascus Gate, towards the eastern Jerusalem. That is the kind of the Muslim where most Muslim population actually live. So that's kind of a little bit of my uh input here, like just a little bit more comments in this regards. And speaking of Damascus gates, that's the famous Damascus Gate, the most beautiful one. That's that's for sure, and it's gorgeous, but it has nothing to do with the Mamluks. It's the Ottomans, so Suleiman the Magnificent, right? And now I'm standing with my back to Damascus Gate and I'm overlooking the East Jerusalem. In East Jerusalem, however, and it's a little bit of a promo to my upcoming tours, that in East Jerusalem there is a particular road, it's called Nablus Road. Well, again, remember we spoke about the different languages, like, one site, three names for it. So there is a Damascus Gate, which is in Hebrew called Sharhem, right? That is um, well, it also has a name in Arabic, which is we will talk about it in a little bit. And there is a road, so Damascus Road or Nablus Road, right? So they all take you to different sites. I mean, Nablus or Shem, right, is an important city in the West Bank, and that's well, a very important site also in the Jewish narrative, but it's also in the Muslim narrative. And it also happened to be the same road to Damascus, hence the name Damascus Gate in English, right? Because Jews would, well, let's say Jewish population speaking Hebrew would not say Shar Damascus, they would say Shar Shem, because for them that gate, that road would take you to Shem. But for Christian narrative, so for the English people coming, for the Americans, Europeans coming in the 19th century to the Holy Land, it would be about the Christian sites. And Damascus, on the way to Damascus, uh, very important things happen, right? So in the Christian narrative, I'm not even going into details there, but the conversion of Saul right into Paul, well, that was on the road to Damascus, and that's why very different names. And there are a lot of important Christian sites built in the late 19th and early 20th century, and I will be taking you to those sites. So this past summer that I spent here, well, I filmed a lot of places, I attended a lot of courses, and oh, there are some absolutely magnificent churches there. Oh my goodness, that goes without saying. Anyway, let's go back, and we're turning back again towards Damascus Gate, so you kind of have an idea. So now we are with our backs to the east, to eastern Jerusalem, and now we're facing Damascus Gate, which we spoke about. The name of it in Hebrew is Shachem. It's the Damascus Gate in English, but there's also another name, Bab al Amud, which is a gate, Bab's gate. Amud is a pillar. By the way, Amud is also pillar in Hebrew. But anyway, but there are many similar words in Arabic and in Hebrew, by the way. Who is this man? Oh, this man is a Roman Emperor Hadrian, the one who totally destroyed Jerusalem, which used to be, which was a Jewish city, right? He completely demolished the city. Before that, his predecessor destroyed the second temple. I mean, the Herodian temple, right? The Jewish temple, and then he rebuilt Jerusalem into a pagan city, Aelia Capitolina, and he is the one who renamed the province from Judea to Syria, Palestina. So blame this guy. But well, blame those who misinterpret the facts and manipulate facts as well. So in fact, Palestina, the term never really applied to a state. It applied to a region, right? And that name kind of stayed. was glued to the area. So Hadrian, well, he builds the city where the way every Roman city will be built, right? And there had to be the main street called Cardo, the Decumanus, right? The street would run well, kind of across. Well, okay, we will talk about it. And also there had to be an entrance entry point, like a gala entrance, an arched entrance, and it is believed that there used to be standing some sort of a stela, some sort of amud, right? Hence the name, right? The gate of a pillar. And we believe that at the top of that pillar was a sculpture of Adrian himself, because that was very typical of the Roman emperors to do it this way. And speaking of archaeology, we haven't seen this map for a while. This is a mosaic from Jordan, right? From Christian church, found in Madaba. And on the floor of the church, you could find this mosaic. And this is the mosaic of Christian sites all over the world. Well, let's say the Levant region. And you can see the old city of Jerusalem. And to the left, you see clearly an interesting arched gate, and there is an amud, right? And there is a straight street that goes all the way just through the entire old city. That is the Cardo, the main street running from north to south. Along the street, there is also different buildings, and a very, very big one built in the middle that is actually Holy Sepulchre Church. But we'll talk about it some other time. We have already spoken about the Christian Quarter. We have spoken about the Holy Sepulchre Church multiple times, so we're not going there again. But definitely, we will be speaking about the Christian sites that run through, well, the Muslim Quarter more, but in the upcoming tours. And well, this is how we believe that the very well the originally this well there used to be a pillar. And in fact, in one of the tours, when we explored the walls and gates of the old city, which was somewhat last year, uh well, I did take you to the museum. So in fact, underground under the Damascus gate, they found what was left of the Hadrian period gate, and they think they even found the place where that amud, that pillar, used to be standing. We're not going to that museum now. I'm just sharing with you some old photographs, but you can see here in this photo. So you see the bridge, right, that people walk on to enter the Damascus Gate, and from the left you see an arch construction. So this is in fact the entrance to the underground section, so to speak, of the Damascus Gate from the times of Emperor Hadrian. Well, you can see it a little bit, just well, a little bit over there. Well, that's it wasn't really the point. I wasn't really filming the museum at that point, but it it shows a little bit from there. Yeah, but this is the main entrance, so to speak, to the Muslim Quarter. That's that goes without saying, but there are also other gates that would take it to the Muslim Quarter. It's well, Muslim Quarter is so big, so there are definitely more gates than that. There is a Herod's Gate, for example. There is Lion's Gate. Yeah, so that's Herod. I've mentioned him today a couple of times. In case you forgot, this client king of Judea who reported to first Mark Antony and then to Augustus, well, he is the one who extended the Temple Mount, who rebuilt the Second Temple into one of the most magnificent buildings in the entire Middle East of his times. And he also built tons of other interesting palaces to himself and also to the Jewish people, but mostly to himself. And a bit of the well, this is just the photo that if I included, this is the entrance, this is the level of the original floor from the Hadrian time. So Hadrian basically destroyed the heritage of Herod um, completely. And by the way, Jesus lived at times of, well, Jesus was born at times of Herod, right? And he walked the streets from times of Herod. But because of the destructions that were waged by Hadrian in the second century, in 130, 135 Common Era, there was well, there are very few places now you can find in Jerusalem that Jesus actually walked himself or saw himself. We spoke about it in detail on my Christian Quarter tours, on my Via Dolorosa tours. So, in order to actually see the Jerusalem of times of Jesus, in most cases, you need to go underground, or underground would come to you in a way. We will be talking about it, and we have spoken about it before. Well, Damascus Gate, the way it looks now, it's clearly Suleiman the Magnificent. That goes without saying. Then, due to the very very narrow streets and the old city, cars and, well, are very limited. They're very 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 limited, and no cars are allowed in particular in the Muslim quarter. Cars are allowed in the Jewish quarter because there is more place there, but not everywhere. Only to a certain area where the big parking lot is. In Armenian quarter there is a big parking lot, or so there are some ways to access, but you can't access the entire old city. I would say 90% of the old city is inaccessible by car, but this type of small cars, some small they're very mobile, and this is the cars with which all the goods would be delivered to the old city, and so on and so forth. This is the video I filmed, I believe, a couple of years ago, and well, I've been there just like previous week. Nothing has changed. It's just people are wearing coats, right? But it's pretty much the same. Always busting trade, all sorts of goods you can find here. But it's also where locals shop. You can find a lot of locals coming here to shop for food, for clothing, for toys, for whatever, for electronics. You could buy even a washing machine. So yeah, I saw washing machines and some other house appliances sold in the old city. This was something really, 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 really surreal to see. But yes, that's what it was, a washing machine in the old city of Jerusalem. And to be honest, things are cheaper in the Muslim quarter a little bit, and things are way cheaper in East Jerusalem. Yes. But it also depends, like what specifically you want to see and you want to buy. But yeah, obviously. Uh, and well, I love Muslim Quarter a lot. It has nothing to do with geopolitics. It just has a lot to do with the food, with diversity. I mean, with the vibrance. Well, but again, here, for example, you can buy falafel too, and you can buy falafel everywhere. In most cases, you're probably used to falafels, like small falafel bowls, right? In pita, right? Or in what do you call it, in like wraps, right? Like lafa, like a big wrap. But in Jerusalem, falafels are of this size, and you can just take one and you're full for half a day because they are rich, they're heavy, and they keep you running. There's a lot of oil and energy there. That's true. And also this bread is basically it's like a bagel Yerushalmi. It's like Jerusalem bagel. It's not the bagels you're probably used to, right? This is like a Middle Eastern size of bagels, something like that. So yeah, well, this is what falafel has to be. That's the real falafel. All the rest is a compromise. That's what I think. And also, you can find also as you enter the Damascus Gate to see all those ladies, Muslim women selling things that well, it's like very very small, very 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 small business. Um, it's hard to tell whether where they get that, if they grow it in in their houses. But yeah, there's also private housing in Jerusalem. But I'm not really sure where they take it. But yes, you can buy whatever you need for your salad. You can buy very good meat. Obviously, it's halal in the Muslim quarter, and all sorts of meats, the variety of meats. And we have reached the point where actually we are going to wrap it up for now, because in 30 minutes we are going to have another tour, the last tour of the evening. That is the Oldenburg Palace, the final episode. So, but I'm sure you can recognize the Mamluk period building with the ablak, right? With the combination of darker and lighter stones in the facade. That's the Mamluk architecture, and actually that's kind of the spot where Cardo and Kumano split and they go different ways. We'll be talking about it in the next episode. So I think so far so good. Let's have the Q&A. I hate to stop this abruptly, but I think it's time to put it on hold for tonight with regards to the Muslim quarter. Let me know if you have any questions. And hello to those who joined us a little a little after we started. Give me a minute. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, the chat is back on. So let me know if you have any questions. But again, so as I said, we have covered only a fraction of the Muslim quarter. And we'll be talking more about the Mamluk heritage. We'll be talking about some important sites as well. But again, for me, it's more important like the vibrance, right? The architecture, and at least some important characters that we could speak about. And in the meantime, I'm going to share with you the links. So one more link for tonight. And I see some messages already there. Just give me a second. I want to make sure I share all the links with you for the upcoming weekend too. Now, Dolores, thank you so much for the tips. Okay, let me get back to the chat. Marilyn says, I learned so much today. Wow, very interesting. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Sharon. Mary, thanks, dear. Thank you for another great tour. Thank you, Mary. That really, really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jan. I have always been scared to walk through the Muslim quarter alone. Sharon, well, it's not, uh, it's safe, but I totally understand why, so, well, people are a bit scared, especially at times like this, especially after the October 7th. And for a long time, Jews did not, well, I mean, many Jews preferred not to go to the Muslim quarter. I feel absolutely safe there. When I was just studying for my license, for example, thank you, Cindy. When I was just studying for my license, and I look like a tourist, so I would be just walking around, studying, filming, and they would think I'm a tourist. So and I felt totally fine. Now when I put my badge on. I'm a licensed tour guide. Goodness gracious. When I put my badge on, I've already made some friends, and well, it's like we're in this together. Most of these people, I don't want to talk about geopolitics here. It's complicated, but as of now, a lot of vendors are trying to survive, and these vendors don't want to they only want to make business and only want to sell their produce, and they want to be kind to you. So in the end of the day, it's about that, just providing for their families. Yeah. But I totally understand, Sharon, why, but there's no need to. Honestly, it's there have been better times, but I don't know if worse is yet to come, though. But not with regards to the Muslim quarter. No. Judith, hi, thank you. The lattice on the openings makes the air entering the building cooler as it is compressed going through the expanse. Yes. Well, Judith, there are two kinds of air conditioning. I only spoke about the mashrabiyah, which is more of it's not about even It's not about the draft and the air by compressing it. I mean, yes, it is compressing it, but it's just a very thin separation, in fact, meant to not to add the air passage and draft, but just to separate women and make sure uh, strangers don't see their women at home, especially well on the balconies. But there is also another thing, that's probably what you're referring to, the Middle East, and we saw some of it as we walked on the ramparts, that is on the walls of the old city, and when we walked above the Muslim quarter, we saw those pipes made from clay pipes that were built into the windows, into the walls, and they were longer pipes, and they may look like mashrabia in a way, but you can definitely say they are longer, and they are exactly the that medieval kind of version of the air conditioning, because of the long compressed um, air, because of their long and compressed air. Yes, so this allows more air passage, and that allows more cooling to the buildings. But with mashrabiyah, well, it does, but much less. So mashrabiyah was intended first and foremost to separate women, to just for them not to be seen by strangers, whereas these clay pipes, that was the air conditioning technique from the Middle Ages. But thank you so much for your input, Judith. Yeah, so dual purpose, but yes. Yeah, yeah, the pipes. Yeah. They are a lot more efficient because in a heat like that, yeah. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you for your questions, for your comments. Well, we'll see each other next time, next weekend, same time next weekend. And in 30 minutes from now, I'm taking you, no, 25 minutes from now, I'm taking you to Tbilisi, capital of Georgia, to talk about the Oldenburg heritage as well as the Georgian. This time it's more about dance schools and a little bit of cinema and theater too. So it's yeah, and just about 2 hours ago, we walked in the English Avenue of St. Petersburg, all that virtually. Well, it's just precious that we can do that. Thank you so much for traveling along, like piggybacking in a way. I'm hoping to see you in even less than 25 minutes, and hoping to see you next weekend too. And there will be one more tour added shortly about Anton Chekhov. As you know, my husband Misha, who also happens to be my colleague, we're doing series of talks on Russian literature. Again, all our talks are not about politics. We don't want to talk about geopolitics as well. It's just something that we'd rather not go into, just because it's politics. We don't need it. We focus on the heritage, what really unites people, what makes us appreciate other cultures and our cultures more. But yeah, sometimes it just we're caught in amidst that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me, and I will see you very soon. Thank you for your support as well. I would like to remind you that you can support me either by sending a PayPal donation or buying me a coffee. All my tours, unless they are private ones, are free to join and tip supported. Thank you. On my YouTube channel, you can find recordings as of the previous weekend. I haven't shared two recordings as of this weekend yet, but I'm hoping to catch up on it a little later this week. Bye bye, everyone. It's been nice seeing you all. See you next weekend. Bye bye. Well, see you in 20 minutes and next weekend on the Muslim Quarter Tour. Yeah.